Hello and welcome to Able Diaries. In a week where not even AI could come up with a crazier concept for what Trump's been up to, we're bringing what news to the table?
I thought we could split it into positive things and negative things this week.
Okay.
Because it felt like everything was either really good or really bad. So that's how I've framed it. Do you want to go along with that, or have you got a different plan?
We'll see.
We'll see.
No, I do. My positive, like my little news announcement. I love cinemas, and Project Hail Mary, which is one of my news topics I'm going to come on to later, just broke $600 million box office, 100 million of which was at the IMAX. So this is my public service announcement. If you can get to an IMAX, go and watch Project Hail Mary or any film, because I'm going to keep badgering on about it, especially over summer with the Odyssey. So that's my positive news story, and part of it we'll come on to later is a question I have for you, Bill, that I was going to bring up at the RIBA provocation, and I didn't. I changed my question, so I'm going to end on a provocation for you. Ooh. Go on then.
That's the hook. That's the old listen to the end.
That guy's such a pro, huh? Guys, so good. Go on then. What's your first bit of news then? Positive or negative?
Well, I think we'll start with the positives.
Okay.
So positives. Universal Studios got planning for a massive new theme park in the Midlands. Positive news. We're looking hard for positive news at the moment because it is quite bleak out there. I had an RIBA council meeting yesterday, and the meeting opened with a conversation that we are at crisis point on every metric.
How many seconds from positive to negative to be going?
Oh, sorry. So
No, but I'm with you.
I'm the yin and the yang. It's like things seem quite rough out there. So the negative, the Saudi slowdown continues. Viability continues to be a massive problem. World War III is really beginning to get some traction now. There's a lot not to like. But what I do like is that we're just going to go on some roller coasters in the Midlands, and it's kind of keep on smiling. And I think it's a sign that actually people are still spending on some things: personal luxuries, frappuccinos, saunas, going to the movies, escapism stuff. And it's like, actually, if you want to invest in something that's going to fly, I think that escapism sector, if that is a sector. And
on that note, around in the background, we have a new hire. I think you should probably introduce.
Liam Fraser has joined our team, and this is the first time we've ever had someone else in the room with us. So it used to feel a bit like therapy, where Ben and I would sit here forgetting that it was being broadcast. But we've now got Liam, who you'll meet over the coming weeks.
I feel like I'd be doing Liam a disjustice. The way you've described Universal Studios as a theme park in the Midlands is not as positive as the way Liam described Universal Studios, which was the greatest thing to ever happen to the middle of England. As in, like, if you've been to Universal Studios, I'm told it's one of the most amazing places you can go. When you hear Midlands and theme park, I live in the Midlands. I'm from the Midlands.
Some of my best friends are from the Midlands. Ben, no, I have been, and it's funny because we took the kids to Euro Disney. I didn't want to take them for loads of reasons, but we took them, and I thought it was a sort of okay day. And then when I said to the kids, like, what's your favourite thing in your childhood? We sort of sit and have that conversation at bed. They're like, well, other than Euro Disney. I was like, what do you mean? It's so far above everything else that has ever happened to them. It like blows my mind. I mean, that they could have had that. We could have experienced the same day and had such different take.
I'm going to ask a stupid question. When we did the RIBA talk, the RIBA president did the talk about what was he calling it, the Hyperloop or whatever.
Yeah, Chris Williamson.
Chris Williamson was talking about the Hyperloop, and he was saying he went on Irish radio, and someone was like, "But why are you, an architect, presenting this? Surely this is an engineer's thing." And he was like, "No, we're architects. Like, this is our ideas." And like the average person doesn't think that an architect would do a massive engineering project. I've never heard of an architect do a theme park. Like, what's that sector? Like, how do we get
you absolutely do it. It's the visitor experience.
Yeah, I know, but like, I've never spoken to anyone who's worked on a big theme park. It's very like closed loop system, and I'm like,
oh, is that a roller coaster?
Yeah, well, I'm like, if we're going to do delivery, I want to do delivery of roller coaster. Like, why not? How do I get into this sector?
If you work for Merlin or any of the other big entertainment operators, come and talk to us. I think it's like all things. It's whether it's defense or industrial. There is a niche group which serve it. I also think it's a bit like doing airports. Like, once you get onto the park, you never leave. They're always reinventing the rides. They're always reinventing visitor centres. They're always fixing bottlenecks. I think it's a great thing to get into. I mean, we might have missed the boat on Universal, but maybe the next one. So that's my big positive one. And I guess the negative one I kind of hinted at is almost everything else that's going on in the world. I've spoken before how big multidisciplinary practices and engineering studios in London have half of their revenue coming out of Saudi, and that slowdown is putting a lot of pressure on the other sectors to perform.
It's
I mean,
bleaker,
while I'm
isn't
on
it?
it,
Who was it? It was Bear. What was the name?
well, no, Ben, that's my next one. Is like the positive and the negatives. You've seen Orms, great firm, doubled in size,
Love
doubled
Orms.
headcount, doubled in revenue. We've collaborated with them on a project that I would describe them as, really great design commercial architects. They do offices, they do all kinds of things.
I think they're the best at the moment. They're my favourite at the moment.
Well, Able and Orms.
Yeah, obviously.
Able and
first,
Orms, the two.
Yeah.
So they've doubled in size. And then Ben Adams, great architecture firm. His firm has gone into liquidation this week, and it was a real shock to me and the industry, because here's a guy who's tried his best, who's done some fantastic projects, that has a number of live projects, and you feel like, oh, hang on, he was a 45-person practice, recently 16 or 17 of them, but still really established, doing really good work. And if they can just disappear like that, it has made us all, I'm very sad for him, and a bit of a shock. So it's bumpy as hell out there.
Well, to stick on that upbeat one, they were saying, this is from Construction News, monthly construction insolvencies exceed 300 companies a month. They're saying that construction is the hardest hit industry since, this is more than retail, more than any other sector since 2008. This is the highest liquidation amount of companies. So I think in our industry, we're sort of at a 2008 recession, but it's not felt everywhere else. But that's sort of the general gist. And when it says construction companies, we're talking about tradespeople, plumbers, but also smaller to medium construction companies are all, they cannot weather this like crazy storm of oil hikes and stuff. And I guess just to stick on that, that's when we were talking at the RIBA event. The general consensus was we're not charging enough, and we devalue ourselves completely. Project managers don't devalue themselves, barristers, lawyers, all of that stuff. And the point was, and I don't know if you were talking about this yesterday, was like, the whole gist is, should we protect the role of an architect more? Actually have much more granular protection of what the term architect means, which sounds really great in principle, but is actually quite difficult to enforce in practice.
I'm torn on this one. There is a big movement in our profession. We have protection of title, so you can't call yourself an architect unless you're chartered. Fine. We don't have protection of function, which means you don't have to be an architect to submit a planning permission or to draw a stage 4 or to do a stage 3. And some people would like...
Is there any part of the whole RIBA work stage that you can only do as an architect?
No.
Apart from BRPD?
Well...
Oh, even that you have to be an architect, do you?
Basically, I totally agree that this is a brilliant thing. There was something called the Architects Act, an act of parliament, which protected the name but not the function. And there was a big move to repeal that act and protect the actual function. People feel that if you do that and you have to use an architect for this work, it will be great for the profession because it will create a lot of work. There is a sense, and I agree with that, but it is also market-led. If you're a customer or a client and you choose not to use an architect, it's cute. It's a high-risk strategy. If things go wrong, they won't be insured. You won't get the service. There's no protection. Yeah. And they're so expensive and they're so high-risk construction projects that not using an architect that's accredited, that's capable, that's compliant, that's insured, all of those things, that's kind of negligent. I think it's marshalled more by a free market economy than a act of parliament.
Well, we've said this before as well. But how many of the RIBA members work at big commercial projects and how many are like a one-man band who run build a house. When you get into that, do I really need an architect for an extension because I've got a contractor, he'll just build it. I get in that world, that's where you get into trouble. It's your money, you've got 500 grand, it's all gone up. But at the level and scales that we're doing, you wouldn't be allowed to not use.
Someone brought up something interesting. There's a company called Resi, set up. It's basically techified doing your extension. And they got Resi, and for that they got a survey, they got a design, they got stage 3 plus information that they could tender the construction project in. They paid $3,000. That's the competition on the kind of home extension market. Yeah. And if I was doing a home extension with no knowledge and someone just said I can do it all remotely and this is what it looks like, and that's the competition.
When it's your money, when you're doing a house, I had this part 3 lecture and they were going, the problem with doctors dentists or architects is that you go to like a lawyer or a doctor in a point of desperation. I need your help. Please help me. Oh my God, thank you. Whereas you go to an architect in a point of optimism. Oh yes, I've got £1 million to do at my house. What do you mean I have to pay VAT on that? Oh, no. What do you mean you have design fees and blah, blah, blah. And at the end, you're like, that took so much longer than I thought. That's a real pain. And when it's your money and you're like, you're trying to save every single penny and you're like, what, I can just go to this app and it's $3,000 and I sort of...
I know. I think of that old like pithy quote of, if you think hiring a professional is expensive, try hiring an amateur, you know. And my worry is that with these resi type products, no shade on them, and they're a brilliant service, I'm sure. But when things go wrong and things aren't as you expect, or the neighbours complain, or there's some community engagement, or you find a corpse under the body, you know, what do they do then? They're sort of a remote service. So,
well, I think that, you know, you were joking that, you know, that bit in Forrest Gump where all the boats go out and they all get destroyed and only one boat's left floating, and you're saying that's a bit like the industry. If we can weather this storm now. But I do think that, you know, let's talk about the Ben Adams one. How many people were they? 16?
there was, yeah.
As a contractor, it's a risk, or a developer or a client. I have to choose the architect I'm going to go with. And I remember a client saying, you know, you're not big enough to take a punch. His point was, if that project goes bad and you're all in on that project, you'll go bust, and that'll be so detrimental to our project. Even a 16-person practice with that level of like history, poof, gone bust so quickly. I do wonder if clients and developers are going to be like, how can we prove that you're not buying this project just for survival, and in 6 months you're going to go bust? If this happens more and more, I do wonder how they're going to like a credit check. It's like, oh, no, we can't, even though you're 16 and you look great, we can't go with you because we can see your debt or whatever. I'm wondering if that's...
Well, we did, we just got this gold accreditation on Constructionline, which I'm really proud of. I know it's not that sexy, but it's really good. You put in all your accounts, you show your margins, you show how much you've got in the bank, and it is part of it. And I think that credit check of architects is really important. I went
Hey,
to,
Bill, why is Constructionline Gold accreditation so important to us as a practice?
well, what it shows, we've got robust compliant systems, Ben. I'm the
Wow.
only one that's obsessed about our systems. I know that, but it's relaxing. It helps when it's your business. It helps you sleep at night. Genuinely, to know we've got a really great HR platform that people can log their holidays and have a proper employment contract, and people arrive and it makes them feel like this is a serious setup. There's a place where you insure all your insurances, all your certificates, or, you know, it feels like a business. I sometimes have this thing of, what is a business? You know, if my laptop was stolen on a bus, I'd just go into a shop, buy another laptop, everything's on the cloud, I'd tap back in. You know, if all our staff had a mutiny and walked out, you know, we'd still have the projects, we'd still have the client, like we'd find other students, it wouldn't be as good. But like, what is the business? Well, basically it's client relationships, and it's the systems you deliver the service. And I think if you can get your systems really tight, then you can put more effort onto the clients.
It's going back to Constructionline, not because I want to boast about it, but like...
What, the gold accreditation?
Yeah, gold accreditation,
Yeah,
it's
sure.
amazing. It's actually quite difficult to get. But the point is that if you work with contractors, it answers my question. How solvent are you? How much debt do you have? Like, Constructionline means, if you don't know what it means, basically, if you're a big contractor and you're trying to deliver projects, every single subcontractor or like has to sign up to this. It's sort of a shorthand for you not to have to do that separately. And
Due diligence.
Due diligence, yeah, exactly. And it means for us, any contractor can ring us up, knowing now we have Constructionline Gold, other than going through their payment systems. Once you've got paid by them once and you're in the system and you have Constructionline Gold, it sort of proves you have the insurances or the capabilities, and you can just go and they don't have to think about it. I don't know why they don't have the RIBA. It's like, do you have RIBA Gold accreditation? What's that mean? Oh, well, you have to go through some
Well, we are a chartered practice, and they are launching a brilliant new Find an Architect service. So you should be able to go onto this. Well, you can go onto the service, and it's come to the end of its natural tech life because it's an older product, and they're about to launch a new one, and they do have that. So if you are if you are out there and you are listening and you don't know where to start with your project, the RIBA Find an Architect service is a really good place to start. And I also feel, and full disclosure, I'm here to also bang the RIBA drum. If you're a chartered practice, it shows you care about your systems and design. You don't have to be a member of the RIBA, and the fact that certain practices are, I think, just, it does show that they're successful enough to pay the bills, that they see the value in these, professional systems and integrity. So I think that's a really good place to start.
What scale of practice and what type of project? Is that residential?
So it is, but it's also commercial. It could be anything. One conversation was about how you can get more commercial clients using it. If you're a professional client, you should know loads of architects. You should know it. So you're unlikely to go through that system. But who knows? I think they were quite often, like your friend that we did an industrial unit for. He might have a shed that he wants extending, and it's technically a commercial project, but he's never used anyone. So go on, find an architect. Oh, the other thing, that Ben Adams thing, I went to a material index, so an amazing reuse company.
Is that what you did last night?
Yeah. Met a couple of really interesting guys from AHMM. I mean, they were 500 people. He's like, oh, well, we're down to 420. I'm like...
What, building material as a business?
No, AHMM.
Oh.
Are 420 people. So we talk about this downturn, and I do think bad news carries on the wind. There are still the Zahas, the Genzelers, the HMMs, the Orms, absolutely, doing incredibly well. So, not everyone died in the war, as they say.
Well, I can see your positive and negative list over there. And then I love it. And then I can see the next lot are a little more in my
Well, shall I launch them and then you can tell me your thing? Positive. In the positive category, Claude. Sweet Lord. We have really started to get
Can I go on a big rant about it?
Okay.
I love it. I've been having an argument with my brother. He loves ChatGPT, but he works in the financial world, and they are GRDP. Is that the thing? Yes.
GDPR.
GDPR. So they're accredited, and he refuses to use Claude. And I'm like, it's so much better than ChatGPT. And he was like, no. So I found a thing. Look, they're both registered. And then I got him to use Claude this week, and he was like, I'm sorry, I didn't listen to you earlier. We've managed to. If you're worried about AI, we should always caveat. I know we're very pro AI, but it does accelerate a lot of your workflows. And I think this specifically, the way we've tried to set it up, and they've literally released something this week which solves the problem that I've been doing for the last 2 weeks, which is I wanted to create a Word document, a fee proposal template. I did it all in Claude, but I could not repeat it the day after. I could never get it to look the same. So I spent ages trying to work out a code set that I could then give to Bill. It's on our server. He can then open it and it'll immediately build a Word document with a fee proposal. And then you just put in the email and the documents and the drawings and it sort of bakes it for you. But what's super interesting is that capability is now built in. It's called Claude.project. And you can now build projects inside of Claude. But I guess the positives are that's amazing. And it's that we're on I think it's £20 a month. The next jump up is Pro, and that's £100 a month. And that is what everyone's saying. You cannot use it, but you know that you're doing something far slower by not using it. It's shifted within a 6-week period where people are like, it's too expensive it would just be a lot quicker if I could just pay that.
The general worry is that we get Autodesk, isn't it? Which is Autodesk, we love them, we give them our money, but the whole industry sort of converged around Revit. And we've all invested loads of money in learning and training, and it's a brilliant digital product. But
and they're like, just a little bit more money?
The software, but it jumped up 70% like last year or the year before. And now you're completely committed to it. I can see one of the risks with Claude is that it would bake it into our kind of fundamental processes, and then the tokens just ratchet up. And basically, we always joke that architects are never able to harness the enhancement of technology. Just the client gets more options faster with less risk, and we're never able to capture that. You sort of feel like, yes, we can do bigger projects with fewer staff, but the price of Claude will begin to match our HR costs that are perhaps
so this is our top tip. What you're supposed to do now. So a company built their entire workflow around Claude, and then for whatever reason just got their access denied. And there's an amusingly useless Google Doc that you have to you have to challenge it. And they're like, but our whole systems are based on this, and they just don't have access to it anymore. So what they're saying now is build your systems. So you build this data set that's yours on your server, and then depending on which AI is hot or which is the best one, you then dump that code into it and use it, and then use the code to rebuild your
so
base
you're
code.
sort of AI agnostic.
Yeah, exactly. So if Claude, because Claude just keeps updating, it's amazing. But another one will come along that's even better, and that's the bit that they're saying that's what you need to learn. Like, don't just close your eyes and use that software. But actually,
So the sort of negative to my positive, I think positive is Claude. The negative is, AI image generation and that front end. I feel like that is falling out of favor a bit. It's easy to spot why have you used AI to do something like that. So actually, we all got terribly excited about that for the image to video, all of these things. It was actually the real power of AI is to take the stuff. The fee proposal that might have taken 4 days takes much less than that. And then actually we can get back into making brilliant architecture. I mean, we've slightly flip-flopped if you were to listen to some of those older. But it's not to say you can't use it for enhancements, but actually the real power sits about business administration.
You remember when Photoshop first came out and everyone's like, oh, it's amazing. You can just fake any photo, and it just sort of, then everyone had the tools and it wasn't fun to do it anymore. I think D5 is a really good, interesting case of how AI is being used more. You have the base software and it just has all these 10 little plugins that you click that button and it will generate a material off an image. You click this and inside of it, it's got 10 little AI functions. Claude, like Word and Claude have sort of these plugins. I know Claude plugs in with Miro, and there's all these little just supercharging things, but it only works if you know what you want the output to be. I tried to do something where I didn't know what I wanted, and it was rubbish.
Yeah.
So it's really good if you're like, no. It's like having a really enthusiastic part 1 or part 2. It's like, no, like this. And over a day, you sort of tweak it. It's the fact that you can replicate it so quickly is great, but the first thing has to be really good. So that's sort of my Claude thing. And then I was jokingly saying before the show that like we're an AEC podcast, we're architecture, environment, engineering, and construction. Because do you remember I banged on about these small modular reactors?
Yes.
And they're Boeing or Bentley, let's say they've finally got agreement that they're going to build it. This is the first UK small modular reactor. In fact, it's the first one in Europe. They've only built them in China and Russia, and this is proved incredibly exciting because if this goes ahead, they've taken an old, useless or like closing down nuclear power station, and then the modular reactor is just a product. It arrives on shipping containers. You like plug it all in, and it just goes
straight from China, Trojan horse.
Yeah, exactly. So
I was plug it in, guys.
Yeah, and I was like, well, this is amazing, and it provides up to 3 million homes, and it provides something like 5% of the country's power. And I was like, I'm curious, how many of these would you need to solve the entire country's?
You need one everywhere.
Yeah, well,
so
you only
all
need,
your data.
It was like 90. You need 90 small modular reactors for the whole country to solve the entire country's energy. I was like, well, that's amazing. Well, hang on. There was 2 other news articles this week where we've now, for the first time ever, broke the record for the amount of PV energy produced, to the point now where in summer, on hot days, they're going to have to give free energy back to people. They're going to tell you to turn on your washing machines, plug your car in for this spot, because I didn't know this. It's actually quite difficult to get rid of too much electricity. You have to turn and shut down things. So the grid has to be like perfectly balanced. So I was like, so in summer, there's too much PV output. So what they're going to say is like people need to either have batteries at their houses, and there'll be points where you can charge up a battery to your house and it will absorb free energy. And then during the days when you need it, and I was like, well, that's amazing. Like, okay, so, and then we've now got the most amount of wind farms. So now 20% of our power is done by wind farms, and we've got too much PV. Okay, so I used ChatGPT. I was like, well, how many, so you only need 60 modular reactors and all of this stuff to be a completely independent country energy-wise. I was like, shit, that's amazing. And then the last news article I read was like BYD, this Chinese electric car company.
Build your dreams.
Is that what it stands for?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Warren Buffett, big investor.
Awful name. Great name. Love it. They've just released a 300 kilowatt battery car, which is the biggest, and it charges in 10 minutes. But you need a mega charging station. So I was on ChatGPT. I was like, okay, what if every petrol station...
You had a busy week.
Yeah.
Because it feels...
I wrote a LinkedIn article, but it was really interesting to me. I was like, okay, well, if every petrol station became a supercharging car, to charge a car, every car became an electric car over the next 30 years, how much power would that take? And they were like, well, actually, you've got all the infrastructure with all those things. So you could become completely independent. I was like, how much would that cost? 250 billion, which is basically the price of HS2.
Or Parliament refurb.
Yeah, and I'm like, Why?
It's not the money, it's the political will, and it's getting people are very suspicious of nuclear. But I'm
Well-
with you. And on that, just from a design challenge, I always think is in the UK, once electric cars can go 800 miles without being charged, you basically don't need service stations anymore. So what happens to them all? Do people still want to stop to spend a penny and get a sandwich, or did we just pretend we wanted to do that because we were filling the car? Like, what happens to all those sites? Do they all become homes? Do they become data centers? Do they become, Universal Studios? And
Well, so this is like, I'm sure every generation feels this. Is like we have all of the technology to solve mega problems. However, the reason this came up is because of the oil crisis, energy, like oil's just going through the roof, right? And the point is, let's make our country independent of relying on another country's power and oil. And then I was like, why don't we do more small modular reactors? And then the Chinese thing came up. Well, it's completely proprietary Chinese technology. And then I was like, oh man, okay, well at least turbines are, the magnets in these ultra efficient turbines are only created in China, and they are already at limit. So we can't buy any more turbines, even though they're manufactured, built, everything done in England. The tiny little magnets that create all of that energy and efficiency, all created in China. PVs, 97% of PVs come from China. Our entire.
But I don't buy that your entire supply chain has to be sovereign for it to ultimately give you a sovereign solution.
But from a security perspective, the fact that...
but a magnet or a part... I mean, I do guess I get a plug-and-play nuclear reactor is a risk. But, magnets or things... I mean, India, China, America, big manufacturing... We're not manufacturers in England. We used to be, and now we're not, and we never will be. So if you took that position, you'd really never be able to build anything.
But the point is the country can't be reliant
Was this your provocation?
No. The point is you can't be reliant on just one country's pure technology. So they're trying to work with Russia, trying to work with India, but all of that stuff is like 10 years behind. So that's the struggle. So you're asking like, why don't they build more? But my provocation was more like, in Project Hail Mary, the whole gist of the story is the entire world gets together to solve a problem. That's the point. And my provocation was going to be for like a tall building or whatever. Like, my joke about AI is like, well, like let's use AI to do something, planning, for example, and every 5 years you change how AI adopts planning. Why isn't there like everyone clubs together and says, this is the most efficient way to build a building. This is the most efficient concrete. The services all get manufactured off site. There's zero flex in the market. There's no market thing. But every 5 years, you're like, that's the most efficient way to build a building. And there's like no discussion about it, no businesses. It's just everyone clubs together and all decides.
Good to see someone banging the drum for totalitarianism.
Well,
it doesn't get enough of...
But I was like, but why is there not a think tank that is like, that's the most efficient building to build?
Well, I think you do get that when you go to these big architectural practices. They're basically building research companies, and when you commission a building, you get what is the most contemporary thinking at that time in terms of geometries, technologies, efficiencies, building materials, all of these things. These are sort of, it's why you want to go to like companies with momentum for buildings, because you're going to get all the immediate kind of networking and growth effects of all the learnings that they've just done on the last buildings. So I sort of feel like that is happening, just not in quite the sort of universal way.
For example, tall buildings, they have overcapacity of cores because you can't design around the smallest lift, because once that lift manufacturer knows that that's the most efficient size lift and it's their lift fits in it, suddenly the price skyrockets. We met WSP, they have this incredible modular system where they can build everything in Revit, but then there's only one contractor that can do it like that. And once that contractor knows, the cost goes up and it becomes cost prohibitive.
Yeah.
So there's so much fat on buildings.
I would challenge since it's a provocation, I would challenge the concept that there is one product in terms of an office service that people want. The market wants variety. You want enormous, great trading floor plates in Broadgate or the city. The Shard is a really inefficient floor plate, but it's got a hotel in there, it's got apartments, it's got offices, and it's iconic, and the value comes from its location and its look. So, efficiency isn't a one-size-fits-all thing.
Yeah, well, it's a constantly moving target. I think that, and I'm just like, I'm just totalitarian. What if, like, basically China?
You are half German though, aren't
Yeah,
you?
I am
There's a
German.
bit-
But like, basically, China at the moment is basically a country. It's like if Elon Musk could run a country, that's what China would be like. It's like, we're going to build a rail system. Poof. It's just going to be done. We're going to build the fastest maglevs in the world. Boom, boom. We've got all the resources. Just go, 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 go. They've just invented the latest LiDAR scanners that have color in. It's just everything is going forward. They have everything. There's no brakes on any of their technology development.
I guess to sort of
you see where
loop
I'm
back, I do, and I'm trying to steer you back off the Elon megalomania thing.
I'm
I
not
think
pro him. I'm just saying.
maybe the good way to finish this is the Artemis 2. You know, that cost billions, and it was such a positive thing for humanity, and loads of private and public sector and like different nations working together to develop that rocket technology. So Artemis 1 just went as an unmanned mission. Artemis 2 is a manned mission. Artemis 4 is going to be the one that lands on the moon. Like, you know, the cost of that was the same as the Ukraine war, which is tearing people apart. And actually, you know, I love talking to my son about it because it is an example of humanity working together. And I know some people say, what's the point of going back to the moon? The point for me is it is human endeavor focused in at the right direction. And I'm hoping that's your angle rather than
yes, exactly.
Sort of,
Yeah, exactly. I did it. I watched Star Wars with Ollie for the first time, and he was like, Daddy, that's the character from Lego Star Wars. I'm no, and I was watching the Archimedes thing doing the Earth. I was like, oh, they did that in The Martian. It's the slingshot thing. Don't they do that? And I was like, it's like sci-fi and films have just completely like caught up with each other. Anyway, do you have anything else to talk about? Hang on, where are you going next week?
No, don't worry. Don't jump the gun. UK Reef, it's coming. We'll discuss it.
You don't have any more things other than that? Any more big events? Is that it?
Well, the BCO is in Edinburgh this year. Edinburgh and Glasgow, you know, as the catchily named British Council of Officers. Great.
Are you going?
Possibly.
Okay.
TBC. We're taking some clients to tennis, so we might not be going. But I want to give them a shout out, and it's a really good event.
Awesome. Okay. Anything else? No. Oh, go on our YouTube Shorts. We've now got tons of YouTube Shorts now.
Yeah. Like and follow.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Bye.